Welcome to the Quiz Matrix. Get ready to put your knowledge to the test with 20 mind-bending true or false questions. Some will be easy, some will trick you, and some will completely blow your mind. Think you can get a perfect score? Let's find out. Let the quiz begin. Honeybees can recognize human faces. True. Scientists have discovered that honeybees can be trained to recognize individual human faces. They have specialized neural networks that allow them to process and remember facial patterns, similar to how they recognize different flowers. In experiments, bees successfully identified photographs of specific human faces to receive sugar water rewards. Sound travels faster in warm air than in cold air. True. While many people intuitively think sound would travel faster in dense cold air, the opposite is true. Higher temperatures cause air molecules to move more quickly, allowing sound waves to propagate faster through the medium. At 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius, sound travels at about 741 miles per hour, while at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Celsius, it travels at approximately 767 miles per hour. The Great Wall of China was primarily built using rice as a binding material. False. While sticky rice was indeed used in some Chinese construction, particularly in city walls and towers, the Great Wall was primarily built using rammed earth, stone, and brick, held together with lime mortar. The myth about rice mortar in the Great Wall likely stems from confusion with other ancient Chinese buildings where sticky rice mortar was used. Medieval knights could not mount their horses without help due to their heavy armour. False. Despite popular depictions in movies and television, medieval knights were trained to mount and dismount their horses independently while wearing full armour. Their armour was well distributed across their body and typically weighed between 45 to 55 pounds. Knights needed to be agile for battle and practiced mounting techniques specifically designed for armoured riding. The human stomach needs to produce a new inner lining every 2 weeks to avoid digesting itself. True. Our stomach cells produce a new mucus layer every 2 weeks because the acidic environment necessary for digestion would otherwise cause the stomach to digest its own tissue. This protective mucus layer, combined with the rapid replacement of stomach lining cells, prevents autodigestion. Ancient Olympic athletes competed wearing special metal shoes. False. While many people think ancient Olympic athletes wore special footwear, they actually competed barefoot. The ancient Greeks believed this helped athletes maintain better balance and connection with the ground. The only exceptions were certain horseback riding events, where riders wore basic leather boots. Polar bear's fur is not actually white. True. Polar bear fur is actually transparent and hollow. Each hair is a clear, hollow tube that reflects light, making the bears appear white. This structure helps trap heat and keeps the bears warm. Their skin underneath the fur is actually black, which helps them absorb heat from the sun more effectively. The first oranges were actually green. True. The original oranges from Southeast Asia were actually green when ripe. The orange colour we know today came from a mutation that was selectively bred because it was more visually appealing to consumers. In fact, in many tropical regions, ripe oranges still naturally stay green due to the climate. Astronauts grow taller in space because their bones elongate. False. While astronauts do grow taller in space by about 2 inches, it's not because their bones elongate. Instead, the lack of gravity allows the vertebrae in their spine to spread apart slightly. This extra height is temporary, and astronauts return to their normal height shortly after returning to Earth. Ancient Egyptian cats were buried with mummified mice. True. Archaeological evidence has shown that ancient Egyptians often buried their cats with mummified mice and other small rodents. This was done to ensure the cats would have food in the afterlife, following the same principle of providing sustenance that they used when burying humans with food offerings. The first mobile phone call was made in 1956. False. While car phones existed in the 1950s, the first handheld mobile phone call was made by Martin Cooper of Motorola on April 3, 1973. The call was made to his rival at Bell Labs, and Cooper reportedly said, "I'm calling you from a cell phone, a real handheld portable cell phone." Medieval European peasants had more vacation days than modern American workers. True. Medieval peasants typically had around 150 days off per year due to religious festivals, saints' days, and the natural agricultural cycle. This compared to the average American worker, who gets around 15 to 25 vacation days, plus federal holidays, totaling far fewer days off. Coffee beans are actually seeds of cherries. True. What we call coffee beans are actually the seeds found inside coffee cherries. Each cherry typically contains 2 seeds, which are processed and roasted to create the coffee beans we use to make our daily brew. These fruits are technically stone fruits, related to actual cherries. The human eye can distinguish between more shades of green than any other colour. True. Due to our evolutionary development in forests and jungles, the human eye can detect more shades of green than any other colour. Our retinas have developed to be most sensitive to green light wavelengths, allowing us to distinguish between subtle variations in foliage. Roman gladiators were mostly vegetarian. True. Archaeological evidence from gladiator graveyards shows their diet was primarily plant-based, consisting mostly of beans and grains. They were sometimes called barley men because of their diet. This diet was deliberately chosen to help build protective fat that would protect their vital organs during fights. The first photograph ever taken still exists today. False. While we have very early photographs from the 1820s, the actual first photograph, taken by Nicephore Niepce in 1826, has been lost to history. What we often see referred to as the first photograph is actually the oldest surviving photograph. View from the window at Le Gras. Chameleons change colour primarily to camouflage themselves. False. While chameleons can use colour change for camouflage, they primarily change colour to regulate their temperature and to communicate with other chameleons. Their colour changes are more often related to mood, temperature, and social signalling than to hiding from predators. Ancient Greeks and Romans wrote their manuscripts entirely in capital letters. True. Until around the 9th century AD, Greek and Latin texts were written in all capital letters with no spaces between words, called scriptio continua. Lowercase letters and word spacing were developed later to make reading easier and faster. The world's oldest known living tree was planted by Vikings. False. The oldest known living tree, a Great Basin bristlecone pine named Methuselah, is about 4,853 years old, meaning it was already ancient when the Vikings were active. It was growing in what is now California, around 2,833 BC, thousands of years before the Viking Age. Reindeer eyes change colour between summer and winter. True. Reindeer eyes change from golden in summer to blue in winter. This adaptation helps them see better in the extreme light conditions of their Arctic habitat. The colour change is caused by pressure on the tapetum lucidum, the reflective surface behind the retina, as their pupils dilate to deal with winter darkness. And that's the end of the quiz. How did you do? Let us know your score in the comments. If you had fun, hit like and subscribe to The Quiz Matrix for more brain-teasing challenges. Thanks for playing, and we'll see you in the next one.